Hello, everybody. It's Ken Davenport, and yes, I am wearing a tie. You know why I'm wearing a tie? I'm wearing a tie for you. For you. And for my incredible guest tonight, Susan Blackwell, who's going to be with us. She's backstage right now, as we call it. Title of show, Now Hear This, a ton of television and film. Also, Side by Side by Susan on Broadway.com, her original series there. And this incredible podcast, if you are not listening to it, listen to it. It's called The Spark File. Mary's going to throw up links to all this stuff. If you've never met Susan before, you're in for a treat. And if you know her, then you know why you're here. You're in for a lot of fun. We're going to get to Susan in just a few moments. She's just sipping her coffee backstage. Until then, I just want to remind everyone why we're here. We're here for the Actors Fund, of course. Don't forget about the Actors Fund. Every night we're we're almost at $1,000 raised for this thing. So let's see if we can get to $1,000 tonight with all of you. Go to my Facebook page. Actually, you're on there right now if you're watching this. Facebook.com/Ken Davenport. There should be a little tip jar. Just give whatever you can to the Actors Fund, and let's see what kind of difference we can make just by being here together. Don't forget about stay safe, stay healthy, and stay home. This big hashtag, which guess what, folks? It's starting to work. So Andrew Cuomo, our governor, who's doing a fantastic job, and I'm predicting could be president someday just as a result of the incredible job he's doing here. He said today that we've had a couple days in a row now of some flattening, some signs of flattening. But what I love about what he did, he brought us this good news that we're seeing glimmers of a flattening. We may be at our apex, and get this, we may be at the apex like 3 to 4 weeks before we were expected to be there. And he said that's all because all of us are keeping our asses in our chairs and couches at home. So that's incredible. We need to keep doing it. And what I love, again, about what he literally was like, this is good news. Oh, and you know what? By the way, you know how it's $500 if I catch you too close to anyone else in public? I'm going to make it $1,000 because I know New Yorkers, and I know you're going to hear a little bit of good news. You're going to be like, let's go have a softball game where we all just have a giant hug and huddle before the game starts. Like, he knows New Yorkers are like that. So he's going to give us good news and also says, I'm going to punish you even more if you disobey me. So just don't. Save yourself $1,000. Stay home for a few more weeks at the very least. Let's get through this. Let's crush this thing together. Why I'm wearing a tie? It is really for you and for Susan Blackwell, because she deserves a guy who wears a tie to interview her. But also, frankly, I did it just to break myself out of a little monotony. So the tough part about being in a quarantine or close quarters and not being able to move around is you develop a routine that can be not like the good ones, right? I'm a huge believer in routines when I can function as a normal human being. I get up at the same time every day. I go to my gym at the same time every day, have breakfast, write, do all this stuff that I'm supposed to do, make sure I check it off the to-do list, the stuff I want to do. Those routines are great. The problem is, in these situations, routines can be very debilitating at times because we can't do some of the things we want to do. So you know what we do instead? We shake it up. And today I decided to dress up for all of you. I just decided to dress up. So here's the thing we're going to do. We're going to call it Dress Up Monday. Next Monday, I'm going to do the same thing, and I want all of you to dress up. And maybe if we can get someone in, one of you, we can stream them in. Yeah, there it is, Dress Up Monday. Next Monday, we can stream one of you in to see what fancy ball gown you might be wearing. Okay, I got this idea from my wife, by the way, who was dressing up last night with her best friend across town. They were dressing up like superheroes, but that's a whole other thing. I leave between them. I don't even try to question it. Anyway, next week, Dress Up Monday. But for now, the tie is for this lady right here. Please welcome to the live stream, Susan Blackwell.
Hi, friends. Hi, friends.
How are you?
Great. How am I? I'm really well. Thank you for asking. As we were chatting briefly before this shenanigan began again, I am riding the roller coaster. Sometimes I'm anxious. Sometimes I'm fearful. Sometimes, a lot of the time, I'm just like swimming in gratitude. To mix my metaphors, I'm swimming on a roller coaster. What? But I just feel well. I'm thankful for that, and just tremendously grateful is how I am. How are you?
Listen, I am good. I am so loving doing these because they give me, as I was just talking about, they give me a very positive routine to my day to help me get through it. And the other day I was like, wow, we're going to keep doing this for a while. And then I was like, yeah, we're going to keep doing this for a while.
Yes.
It's this part of it is good. So what are you doing right now to keep yourself up, motivated, producing, creating, whatever it is?
You know, when all of this stuff came down, I like most of the rest of the world, not all of the world, but much of the world, all of my work in a 24-hour period vanished. Like the calendar completely emptied, the prospect of income dropped away. And I will tell you, for about a day and a half, I was gutted. I was so scared, and I was so mostly scared, but then like just wanted to stay in bed and sort of not face it. Like it was really just very challenging, as I'm sure people can relate. I have the good fortune of a while back, a fellow teaching artist and friend of mine named Thomas Schulteis created a workshop offering around processing rapid change, processing challenging curveballs, failures, tough criticism, that sort of thing. And I snapped out of my amnesia and remembered that I had this toolkit to draw from. And the physician healed thyself. And I sort of put myself through this process, and I grabbed my bootstraps, pulled myself up, and realized that I could not stay under the quilt. Like I had to rally, and I had to figure out how to do what I had to do to pivot, to innovate, to convert that business that had been a lot of live sort of teaching and appearances and things like that, to convert it to something virtual, using all the technology that luckily we have at our disposal. I know it can give us eye fatigue. I know it can be tough if you're not used to sitting in a chair for hours and hours. But I converted almost all my business to virtual work and sort of salvaged it. So with the exception of, I think, of maybe one client. And since then, work just keeps flowing in to the point now where I'm sort of like, I look at people who are like day drinking and finishing Netflix, and I'm like, that sounds dreamy. So that's what I'm doing to remain sort of on course and engaged, is I'm trying to be of service and sort of maintain momentum. So that's what I'm doing.
That is an awful lot.
It's good though, isn't it? I mean, yeah. I really, I think the danger with something like that, the tougher flip side of it is, I think I have a tendency, if left unchecked, to like be a little bit workaholic, and I don't think that's great. I think ideally there's balance, but I am so grateful right now to have the work, to be able to be of service, to have a focus, to have that structure that I've created for myself in my day. I feel like that is keeping a lot of that fear at bay. So I'm very thankful for it.
And where were you when, as I've been asking everyone, when the virus hit the fan? Like, where exactly were you? What were you doing when you realized, oh, this thing is not SARS. This is different.
I'll tell you, my husband has a touch of the prepper in him. I've always known this about him, but he, just from, taking in the normal news that we all do, he just keyed into something. And he was like, about a week and a half before the world lost their minds, he was like, let's go to the store and let's completely stock the pantry. Let's order everything we need. And so
you have all the toilet paper in North America, don't you?
No, he also, he's a very balanced and sane person. And he said, we're not going to overbuy because we are not going to be those people that clear the shelves and make it impossible, you know, like out of fear and panic. He was sort of like, we're not going to be those people, but we're going to have what we need for if we have to stay in the house for 2 weeks to a month. This was like, you know how rapidly things are changing. He sort of had this, he was keyed into this really early on. And I also think we are fortunate in that just in following our passions and our bliss, we have made some things we didn't know were going to be great choices to prepare for a zombie apocalypse. We moved out of the city. I don't live in the city anymore. So we moved out of the city. We are lucky to have space and air and sky around us, which is wonderful. He's an amazing shot with a bow and arrow. So there's that. I grow our vegetables. So there's that. And I can also, I do aeroponic gardening, so I can grow them indoors. Just things like that, the ability to, and also we're both sort of self-employed entrepreneurs. So we're accustomed to just creating and innovating and pivoting. And so we are fortunate working from home. We're just really fortunate to have a lot of systems in place. And that's just because we followed our passion, and it just so happened it lined up well with pandemic.
So you're used to working from home. So for those of us who are not used to working from home, this guy included,
yeah,
I'm still like trying to figure it all out, because I am also a bit of a workaholic, but I've got a 2-year-old running around. As much as I want, like I want to go out and hang out with her like half the time, even though I can't. What are your tips for working at home? Your biggest success tips?
I'm psyched that you asked, and I'm so happy to share it, because I want to point out that in addition to all my creative adventures over the years, parallel to that, for like 20 years, I worked in an office during the day. And before that, from kindergarten through graduate school, I went straight through kindergarten, graduate school, and then just a lot of external structure provided for me. And I really, I thrived in those conditions. And I struggled when I decided to just fully have my own business and be a freelancer. I really struggled for a few years because I didn't know how to thrive without that external structure. But I would love to share with you some things that I've learned that have made my life easier just in time for the pandemic. One of the things that I do is, I have it with me right now, I have a bullet journal. And I use it, I have it with me kind of everywhere I go. It's with me in the same way that you would carry your cell phone with you. And I keep it when I go to sleep at night. I have it right by the bed. And there's some things that I track each day. When I start my day, I wake up. The first thing I do is pee. But after that, I meditate. And so I do my little brain meditation, and then I pick up my bullet journal. And these are the things that I track. I have gratitude. So I explore my thoughts, and I come up with 3 pieces of gratitude for each day. And then I have a series of things that I do, a look back on the previous day. And I have a checklist of things that I track each day. And so I don't, like on the weekend, sometimes I don't always hit it. I don't always get it. So I don't let perfect be the enemy of good, but I track things to see how I did with things like meaningful engagement with my husband, nutrition, my water intake, my menstrual cycle, because I think that's very telling about my productivity, business development, cleaning and organization, creativity, friendships and relationships, gratitude. And I just either give it a check, like I did it, or a wiggle, like I kind of did it, like my nutrition was okay. And then I just really ate a whole sleeve of Oreos. And it's not to judge. It's just so if I start feeling off or if my productivity seems a little meh, I can look at it and go, well, you have not been drinking water. You have simply not been drinking water. So put the Brita pitcher on your desk and drink the water. So after I've done that, then I keep it as simple as possible. I'm not fancy. I know some people keep their bullet journals and they're like an art project. Mine is not. I just make a list of the things I'm going to accomplish that day. And I never do it all, but I just sort of like start chopping through that. I have that list created. I get up, I do some exercise so that I'm keeping those lungs healthy in case, knock on wood, I would catch the coronavirus, that I have those good full lungs. And then I eat some food, do some chores, and I start rocking the list. And so that has been the thing that has helped me work for myself as if I'm working for someone else and I have that external structure in place.
I love so much of this. And I have the same thing somewhere here. I have this journal right here.
You get a lot of stuff done, Ken. You get a lot done.
Listen, you have to have a process. I have something online. I use this platform called Toodle-Do. Mary will throw that up. It's a great one.
Wow.
Digital to-do list. But a coach of mine recently told me about this when I was freaking out. Like, I just can't catch up. I got to catch up. I got to catch up. The guy shut me up and said, Ken, you're an entrepreneur. You will never catch up.
Never catch up.
You'll never catch up. So don't worry about not crossing all the things off your list that you set out to do. Don't worry about, I ate one sleeve of Oreos today, so of all the things I was trying to check off, I can't check nutrition. Because frankly, if you got 5 of 6 of the things, that's pretty damn good.
I love that because it'll never be perfect and you'll never catch up. There's always going to be more to do until you're dead. And so it's sort of like, I don't know, one of the things that I could do better at, and maybe you have thoughts about this, is how to just be at peace at the end of the day and say, now I'm going to, something that we tell our coaching clients is look at the things you've done and say, I'm finished. And sort of just have that moment of completion and celebration. And then sometimes I'm like, as an entrepreneur, sometimes I work very late. I work on the weekends. And I think that's kind of right on target if you are running your own business. But if you have any thoughts about how to just let the day conclude and have a little downtime, I'd take those thoughts.
I wish I did.
Look at the two of us.
It's really bad. Like my wife, who my biggest problem right now is I will fall asleep on the couch. I'm one of those guys, I'm 47 years old now. I feel like I'm 60 at the end of the day. I'm just fully dressed. I'll wake up. She'll just be like, shut the lights off and just go. It's because I can't be like, I'm done now. Because I'm going to get up and go back to the office and do like one more hour of work. I just need one more hour. And because that's why I won't go to bed. So I'm screwed just like you in that regard. We'll have to get someone else who knows that answer.
But it's good to say I'm finished and shut the journal and know that it's going to be there tomorrow. It'll all be there waiting for us tomorrow.
See, you know the answer. You've done so many things, and you've always done so many things. I mean, what I loved about our podcast was you telling me how you were like writing the title of show while you were working at that office, right? And now you're pivoting again. You're coaching. You're doing all sorts of stuff. The Spark File. How do you wear so many hats? I mean,
tiny hats.
Yes,
tiny hats.
Yeah.
Tiny Invisible Hats will be the name of my autobiography, and I think it's going to be a huge bestseller. I think we talked about this on the podcast, but I came to a realization that there really is a heart that beats beneath all of those things. So even though they may seem very disparate, there's a invisible thread that sort of runs through all of them. And that is my purpose in life, which is sort of to free myself, to free my self-expression, to free my creativity, and anybody else who wants to come along for the ride. And if when you think of it that way, everything that I do, whether it's the song Die Vampire Die that I co-wrote with Jeff Bowen, or the Sparkfile podcast that I make with Laura Camion, or the workshops that I teach, pretty much now hear this, like everything that I have made. There's a piece that we wrote in the musical Now Hear This called The Golden Palace. Even that is about all of it. All of it is about freedom. It's all about accessing freedom of creativity, freedom of self-expression. And I'm sure that there are people, haters gonna hate, I'm sure there are people that are just like, oh God, Susan Blackwell, please stop telling the same story over and over again. But it really is the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning and drives me, the thought of historically not being free and now feeling a great measure of freedom and wanting other people to be able to experience that lightness and that flow and wanting to help them get to that.
So this is a two-parter. How do you think audiences are going to respond to the theater when this is done? Like, what will that reaction be when we open the theaters again?
Yeah. Is that part one of the do?
I'm going to let you answer that one first.
One, I think people are going to be, I was having a conversation with a client the other day who has a 12-year-old, this person is an educator, and they have a 12 or 13-year-old daughter at home who, a month and a half ago, you could not get this kid out of bed to go to school. And now the thought of getting to go to school, to be amongst people, is just like the sweetest, like it's just so sweet and melancholy to be on the other side of the glass and know that that's not going to happen for a while. I think by the time we all get to return to school, theater, community gatherings, church, like I think by the time we get to return to that, there is going to be such a renewed sense of appreciation for these little things, toilet paper, and I think that the theater is going to, I think that it's going to be like water for people, for thirsty people. That's what I think.
I totally share that opinion, first of all. Now, second of all, you've pivoted a lot in your life. Water, check.
Oh, I'll pivot. Yeah, check, water.
So
finished. You can sleep easy. Watch a movie on Netflix, Susan. You drank your water today.
You have pivoted it very successfully in this situation. You're a day and a half gutted, all your income gone, business up in air. How long is it going to go? Then you pulled yourself up, you're back. When this is done, will you pivot back to where you were before, or will virtual events be?
I'll tell you, Pandemic. This is such an interesting question, and we've talked a fair amount about it. Myself with my business partner Laura Camion, with my husband, who's also, he's a mover and a shaker, and I think that the world will be changed after this. If you think about the impact something like September 11th had, which was, if you were living in New York during that time, was an extraordinary event. If you look back on that, a lot of people, after having faced trauma like that and having faced their mortality like that, people were not playing around. People were interested in making significant life changes, in making that thing they always wanted to do, making a career shift that they had always dreamed about. And I think that this is going to be, because it's global and because of the scope of it and the length of it, the duration of it, I think that people are potentially going to use, not everybody, but some people will use this time to do a real reconsideration about what they want to do with this precious life. And I include myself in that. And as an introvert who moved to the side of a mountain, like this has been in many ways, it's very scary, and it's very intense. And my husband and I have said to each other, if we weren't afraid for our loved ones, for the global economy, etc., if we weren't afraid, if you could take the pandemic out of the situation, this has been lovely. Like, we love our time together. We love working from home together, and then, you know, meeting each other for breakfast, lunch, and dinner sometimes. So I think that I will continue. I probably, of course, will return to a lot of live work, but I think that being able to offer an institution a fantastic, like, top of the line personal or professional development workshop for their employees, but we don't have to pay for me to fly, is a real, that's a great option to have in the portfolio. So I think that we're gonna see some change globally, but also personally.
We have a fan of yours here that said, Taylor Penny, I love watching Side by Side. What inspired you to create that series? And just talk a little bit about creating anything, not only Side by Side, from title to show to the workshops you do, how you go from this blank screen that I'm looking at over here to it filled, that product.
Yeah. Taylor, first of all, Taylor Penny, thank you so much. What a kind question. So specifically, the way that Side by Side came about is Broadway.com, Paul Wontorek of Broadway.com, and I were on a Broadway, like one of Rosie's Broadway cruises, family cruise. And we were on that cruise, and we were having lunch together, and I had done some correspondence work for them to promote around the promotion of title of show and stuff like that. And he reached out and said, would you want to make something? And if you made something with us, what would it be? And I came up with this idea it was so cool. It was such a cool opportunity to have somebody who had so many resources to be able to say, if you could make anything, what would you make? And I came back to him with this idea for, what if we do something that was like friend dates with Broadway film and television people, and we could shoot it on location, and we could do something fun, and it would be a way to show that person in sort of the most relaxed, most effervescent, just sort of like fun, stupid light. And he went for it, and we're now in our 11th year, and we were right in the middle of filming when the pandemic struck, but we shall return. So that's how that came about. But more generally speaking, if somebody is interested in making something where nothing existed before, I feel like what you want to do is start paying attention to what gives you a feeling in your body. Like, if you read an article or you see something and it gives you a feeling, like it gives you shivers, or if you watch it, the thought of it makes your heart beat faster, or like the hair on the back of your arm stands on end. Start paying attention to those things, and those articles that you read that you love, those quotes that you see on Instagram that you're like, oh, my heart, I love it so much. Start a spark file, which is just a fancy term for a collection of inspirations and fascinations, and start capturing those things so you can find your way back to the one consistent location for those things. And then start looking around. Who might you want to work with? What is your medium of self-expression? Do you like to write? Do you like to sing? Do you like to paint? And when you start like mixing together, like who you might love to work with, what things, like what little sparks of inspiration excite you and delight you? What things, when you read them, give you a feeling in your body? What mediums do you want to work in? When you start braiding those things together and then start setting goals around them, like by Sunday, I'm promising myself that by Sunday, I'm going to just write whatever comes to me for 15 minutes every single morning. When you start setting goals against those things and it starts to spin together, this some people think creativity is magic, and it's not. It really is a lot of just putting one foot in front of the other. And there can be those magical moments where things sort of like coalesce and something like goes and rises up. But really, it is just a combination of things that really spark you and inspire you, and goals. It's sort of that. Yeah. So that's what I would recommend starting. I can say starting to pay attention and take notes.
I love that gut feel, because I'm just thinking, I was literally like, as you were talking, I was thinking about all the shows I've ever done, the things that are coming for me. And I'm like, all of them gave me that hair on the back of the head, or sorry, the back of the neck, or the back of the hand feeling of like, oh my God, I'm shivering now just thinking about some of them.
Yeah.
I love that idea. And then what you said actually reminded me of your hobby, that creating something new or writing something new, it's like gardening. You got to plant the seed, but every day you're like working the soil. You got to do the thing. You got to like every day, just a little bit more until bloom. Before you know it.
And the seeds you plant today won't necessarily show fruit like tomorrow. It takes a little time for that to, and a little bit of like maintenance and ongoing work to get it to produce. But it does. It's not magic. There are magical moments in it, but it is not magic. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your spark with us tonight. We wish you and your husband a wonderful rest of this quarantine.
Thank you. I'm into it. We are, I'm going to say this: balance. We're getting a lot of stuff done, but here's the balance. Let us all remember that we are processing so much rapid change with this, that processing of rapid change requires a fair amount of our personal capacity. So if you feel like, I'm not getting as much stuff done as I typically do, or I wish that I was, Shakespeare wrote King Lear. I don't actually think that's historically accurate, but like just grace, like patience and grace and compassion for yourself throughout this, because in addition to whatever workload you had before, you're also processing a lot of rapid change. And the other thing I would be remiss if I did not offer people is this. If you want a little breath of inspiration and fresh air, please come visit us at the Sparkfile podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We do, look at the graphic. Hey now.
Yeah.
Laura Camion and I have been making this podcast since 2019, and it really is, we aim to free people's creativity and spark their inspiration and really lift them up. And while we do acknowledge the existence of the pandemic, and actually Camion some months back did an amazing episode. Her spark was the flu of 1918. And she said, she prophesied that it wasn't a case of if it happens again, but when it happens again. And I was like, Camion, don't say it, you're a person. And indeed, but it is a space where people can, if you're looking for something to listen to that just sort of gets your creative juices flowing, but isn't completely coronavirus centric, come on over to the Sparkfile. We'd be so happy to have you.
I'm a big fan of it myself. You heard her. Go listen to the Sparkfile and create your own Sparkfile yourself. Susan Blackwell, thank you for being with us tonight. I look forward to seeing you in person soon.
I love you, Ken, and I love all you people out there. Stay safe, wash your hands, don't touch your face.
Bye, Susan. The amazing Susan Blackwell, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Producer's Perspective Live. Mary, tell them who we have tomorrow. Sound like a game show. Andrew Lippa. I mean, come on, everybody. Come on. Look at these people coming out for us. Composer, lyricist, Andrew Lippa, Addams Family, Wild Party, a song called Make It Fly that I sang for auditions back in 1991. Yeah, like one of his first songs. I used to sing it, given to me by Jason Robert Brown. I've been in this city a long time. Andrew Lippa, great guy, great talent, very inspirational. He's going to talk a lot about how he keeps creating during this and also about the Dramatists Guild Foundation. Don't forget, stay safe, stay healthy, stay home. Don't forget about the Actors Fund. Now, let's put a big smile on everybody's faces with this incredible story It is something to smile about. That is the new segment on our show. Something to make you smile. That's actually the name of it. So new, I forget the title. Something to make you smile. Get this. Get this. So a 9-year-old was supposed to see Hamilton. And the 9-year-old, because of what's going on right now, can't see Hamilton for her birthday. That was the goal. So the mom tweeted this out. Next thing you know, this actor named John Krasinski, you know him, The Office, and his wife, Emily Blunt, responded. John's been doing this cool thing called Good News, which, by the way, he stole from Nick Pramick at RPM. Yeah, that's an RPM shout out because Nick Pramick started emailing everyone just links to Good News like a week ago. And all of a sudden, John Krasinski's like, oh, I'm a big celebrity famous guy. I'm going to do it as well. And it's going to look like my idea. It was Nick Pramick's idea. So he's starting to just list Good News. And he sees this tweet from this mom about this 9-year-old's birthday party. So, and she can't go to Hamilton. So he goes, I'm a big famous celebrity. I'm going to reach out to some Hamilton people. And John got the entire original cast of Hamilton to do the opening number virtually for this 9-year-old. And Mary has the link. So if that's not something to make you smile, I don't even know what it is. Don't even watch us anymore if you don't smile at that. Go check it out. Big thanks to John and Emily and the entire cast of Hamilton for bringing some joy to a 9-year-old's life. Because the kids, they don't really understand all this stuff. They just understand they can't go to Hamilton. Thanks for making that kid smile. You're making all of us smile. In the meantime, tomorrow night, Andrew Lippa will definitely make you smile again. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay home. Do what Susan says. Wash your hands. Stay away from people just for a few more weeks. At the very least, we hope. See you tomorrow.